I started as a freelancer with no clients, no ads, and no idea how to grow. Today, I've built a web consulting business that has generated over $500,000 a year. I was able to build a business that gives me joy, energy, and profit. In this video, I'm gonna walk you through exactly how I did it, step by step, taking you all the way back from the zero and where I am now. Let me show you the full evolution. With that being said, let's dive in. Before I share my screen, do me a quick favor. Hit that like button and subscribe if you're serious about growing a business that you actually enjoy. I'm putting out a video every Thursday to help freelancers, web designers actually build a business that gives them joy, energy, and profit. With that said, let's get into it. So let's start from the beginning. So it all started here at zero. I get fired from my job, 2011. Someone says to me, "Hey, Alex, I need help with a website. I have 500 bucks. Can you help?" I had no idea how to make a website. I said yes. And I was able to have a conversation with someone that knew me. And therefore, I was able to then start my journey as a freelancer. So I started with websites without having any experience. I was able to build this gentleman his website, and I started learning fulfillment skills. This is where I had my aha moment, and I realized that I can charge for my skills, which was a first. I was used to just working at Apple at my job, and now I had a taste of entrepreneurship of, wow, I can actually build a website and somebody's willing to pay me. So that's how I started. I then evolved into learning how to have conversations with someone who doesn't know me. This is where I learned the skills of selling. How do you sell something for more than $500 for a website? At that point, I increased my prices to $1,200, $3,000, $5,000, $10,000, right? And I was able to do that by learning sales skills. Also, of course, while maintaining and continue learning fulfillment skills, like how to actually build things and just start offering services. I was offering websites, branding, SEO, logos, you name it. I was experimenting. I was going through a phase where I was finding my true value, as my good friend Blake says. And so, with that being said, from here, I was probably around 40K, 50K. The way I was able to get to $100,000, and I did this in 12 months, was I was able to do that by joining BNI networking. And essentially what BNI is a networking group where you work together with other entrepreneurs to grow each other's businesses by way of referring one another, being a resource to someone, and just overall collectively growing our businesses together as a group, as a thrive, if you will. During this time, and I'll put the link below to BNI so you guys can see what that's about. I will even consider making a video for you guys if you want. So comment below if you want to know more about BNI and my experience with it. This was a game changer for me. Because I continue to learn, sales skills, fulfillment skills, but then I started learning about networking, okay? I was starting to connect with people and learn other business problems and other business, and I started to learn other businesses' problems. So I became very dangerous because in BNI, you can only have one profession per seat. So there's only one dentist, one chiro, one personal injury attorney, etc. So I became extremely dangerous because I knew the problems that these industries have. Imagine every Friday you have breakfast with a bunch of entrepreneurs in different disciplines, in different industries, and they're telling you their problems and you're hearing what they're looking for and what's going on. I became wildly dangerous because I knew what their problems they were facing. What that allowed me to do was it gave me articulation, meaning the ability to communicate so others feel understood, because there was a lot of empathy because I knew what the true problems they were facing. So it became very simple for me to talk to many different businesses and say exactly what they wanted to hear because I understood their problem. I also learned public speaking, how to, be in front of a crowd. And then I was able to, through this process, I was able to dish out selling services and craft an offer that allow me to cater to different industries while maintaining a lean way of doing fulfillment, to not get stuck in doing custom projects. So I was able to learn how to put an offer together, how to make offers specifically for different industries. And I was learning business skills because, again, I was surrounded by entrepreneurs. So shout out to all my BNI people. Thank you. Because I learned the skills, the business skills that allow me to continue growing my business. So this is how I got to $100,000 a year. I was like around 120 to 125. And the way I was able to do that better and going towards that 500K per year was doing what I was already doing, BNI networking, but better. I know, right? It's crazy. A lot of people, they start doing something that works and you jump off, or we jump off ship, we try something else. I'm guilty, I did it too. Instead of focusing on the thing that's working and making it work better. So in this particular scenario, I decided to do BNI better. So here's what that looked like. I started learning about processes. I started learning about tracking my data, meaning instead of just going to the networking event on Friday, I was tracking what was my 10-second commercial, how many one-to-ones did I have through the week, how many referrals have I given. So I started tracking my data, my inputs and output. What I was doing in BNI, I was tracking it. I started building my CRM. So I now didn't rely on my reptile brain to remember who was interested in doing business with me or not. I was able to then manage my pipeline and figure out where people were in the sales process, have everything organized, again, tracking my inputs and outputs. And I was playing full on, taking leadership roles and just going all in into BNI and ultimately doing BNI better. As a result, from doing BNI better, I went from like 125 to now 150,000. And during this time, I wanted to do something that is working really well, but now I want to get outside of this circle because now I was hitting a cap. And so I wanted to go outside of BNI and be able to implement the same things that I learned at BNI, but how do I get people outside of that circle? And so I started doing organic. And what organic means is essentially, instead of just focusing on my BNI network, I was now going outside of my own BNI network organically without paid ads. And I was able to reach out to people and ultimately get them to know who I am, trust, and like so they can become clients. So during this time, I placed my focus on one channel. I pick one method of going out of my existing circle to complete strangers, people that have no idea of my existence. And I focused solely on that channel while still attending my BNI, while still doing that, right? I placed my focus on here and I was doing enough here, but I went all in here and I went outside of my circle. This allowed me to continue increasing my revenue. It continued to increase until I started doing organic, but better. And this is what allowed me to get to $500,000 a year. And what organic but better looks like is the same exact thing. The only difference is that now I was leveraging people and I was leveraging technology. So now all of the processes that I put in place to go and pick one channel for prospecting, again, organically without having to pay for ads, I now started leveraging people. How can I delegate certain things so that it can make my work easier so I can continue doing it, but better, right? So I started leveraging people. I started leveraging technology as well, automating things. Keep in mind, this is before like ChatGPT and AI was big. And so, or was even a thing. So that's what I was able to do here to get to that $500,000 a month. I'm sorry, a year, not a month, a year. Okay. Now, what I want you guys to note is this is one channel. This is just one method organically that if you just pick one channel out of the gazillion ways you can get customers, if you just pick one and you go all in one and you dial that thing in, that's what's holding you back from getting to 500K plus. Now, the way you're able to sustain that and be able to be at that revenue is by leaning on people and leaning on your tech, right? Leaning on your systems. So that's how I got there. Now I'm going to share with you what I did to go from $500,000 a year to getting closer to $100,000 a month. Full disclosure, as of today, July 3rd, 2025, the most that I've done in my business has been $70,000 a month. And so I'm going to share with you, one, I haven't gotten to 100K just yet, and I'm going to show you what's missing here and what I'm planning to do to get there. And just show you what I did. So here's what I ended up doing. At this point, what I did was I went ahead and I started paying for my organic channel, for my one channel. I started leveraging teams and delegating that whole system because I already made it work prior by myself, one, and then I did it better by leveraging people that would help me. I was still doing that organic method myself. I was also leaning on tech to do things to reduce the amount of time that I was spending. I was still doing it myself though, right? With leveraging people and tech. This line in the sand here is me hiring an agency to do the one thing that I was already doing, that was already working, but I wanted to fully delegate it. So that is when I start building my team and just delegating that side of my business so that I can have more room to continue growing my business, right? So that's how I started into the paid organic side. And again, just for transparency's sake and clarity's sake, there's a difference between paid organic and paid advertisement, which we're going to go in just a minute. I didn't start with paid advertisement. I started before I paid for ads, I paid for organic. I paid for doing the same thing that I was doing organically, but having an agency to do it for me. And I'll get into more details in separate videos. I don't want to make this video like 3 hours long. So I'll go over that and drop the comments if you want to know what this channel was. If you want to go deeper, we'd love to know your thoughts on how I can serve you and help you. So that's paid organic. From that point, here's the pattern again. I went from making sure that instead of when things are not working or when there was breakdowns with the agency, I was able to dial things in and do paid organic, but better, right? Refinement, optimization, making it work better. And so what we did here, what I learned here, the skill was I became very clear that it doesn't matter what my emotions are. It doesn't matter how I feel. Data is the truth, right? 1+1 = 2. People lie, you and I lie, data doesn't lie, right? Numbers doesn't lie. So with that being said, I became obsessed with understanding data and making decisions based on data, not emotions. And again, all about dialing things in, refinement, right? Just making it work better. At this point, the most that I made during this time was like 55, between $50,000 to $55,000 months. This is where I am right now. 70K here, and let me put right here. 70K per month. So from the 50, 55 all the way to 70, and as my goal is obviously continue to make more, I went all in on paid ads. So I picked one channel, go all in paid ads. And what I learned here is how to start tracking money, specifically return on investment. How much money did I pay for ads? What was my cost per impressions? What was my cost per click, my cost per lead? What did it cost for someone to watch the video, or for them to book a call? How much it cost me to acquire a call? How much it cost me for me to close someone, right? Cost per acquisition. So all of this data that was ROI driven, I started learning. Also patience, being able to understand that things are going to take time. The mindset of knowing that, you're going to be spending money. At this point, I was spending between $200 to $300 a day. Right now, spend around between $400 to $500 a day on ads. And in this part right here, the mindset of being able to okay with spending more, that's something that I have to continue to learn and grow, right? Because I'm also growing. You're not the only person that's learning and growing. I'm also growing a business as well on this side, and I'm also human like you. I'm not a AI robot. And so getting that mindset and just leveraging, being able to leverage paid platforms, paid advertisements, and be able to track this, right? And I started doing this by myself, and then I hired someone to help me. And then this is the whole point of paid but better. And so then at this point, paid but better, I hired a media buyer, right? I started hiring here before I got to that 70K. I hired a media buyer. I got to that 70K with a media buyer, right? And just for context, a media buyer is somebody that actually buys the ads and runs your ad account on whatever paid platform you're using, right? Or you choose to use. And then now the point that we have here is we need to be able to spend more money. And something that I'm learning here is making sure that your fulfillment is never a bottleneck. This is like the current lesson. Like fulfillment can never be a bottleneck, because if it is, you're not gonna be able to reach that. If you don't have that ironed out early on, is gonna be very challenging for you to scale, for you to make more. Because if getting clients is going to slow your business down because your fulfillment is tight and it's not fluent, you're not gonna be able to scale your business. That has to be taken care of. So fulfillment here is there's not an option. You cannot have this as a bottleneck. And so that is where I am at. And I look forward to continue sharing my journey with you guys. That is how I was able to go from 0 to 500K with web consultant. Currently, I am teaching others how to go and implement the exact steps to making sure that we move your needle forward and help you navigate to $500,000 a year. And obviously me sharing my experience as I get through a higher monthly income, or as I continue generating more money on a monthly basis. So that's pretty much it. So that's the full journey from 0 to $500,000 a year. I hope it gave you a clear path on what's required, perhaps give you some clarity on where you're at in your journey, because this changed everything for me. If this video gave you value, hit that like button, drop a comment, and make sure to subscribe. I'm dropping videos every Thursday to help you build a web consulting business that actually gives you joy, energy, and profit. And hey, if you want a copy of this framework, I put our email below the description. Just send us an email with the subject 500K framework and we'll send it your way. Appreciate you guys watching. See you on the next one. Create a great day, everyone.